Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular commission meeting this February the 4th. Will you have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Margaret.
Here.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cassell.
Here.
Commissioner Burns.
Here.
Mayor Carney.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. You may be seated. We have our agenda approval. Are there any items on the agenda that anybody wishes to pull, delete?
Can I just grab 6A?
6A,
Yeah, thank you.
commission meeting minutes. Okay, that's fine. Any other changes? Then I need a motion to approve the agenda
Wait, Mayor,
as amended.
do you want to make it 7AA?
Oh, yes, we're making it 7A. Yes, right, 7A. Thank you. All right, do I need a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Done.
Thank you.
We have two presentations today. 1211 Awareness Week. We have Sharon LaRue, who is the director.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and County staff, City staff, and audience. Thank you so much for this recognition of 211 Awareness Day and giving me a few moments to just address the Commission about what our life-saving work is all about. I think everyone here is aware, if anyone in the audience is not, 211 is the 24/7 crisis line and helpline serving this whole region. We respond to both the 211 line and the 988 suicide prevention line. We respond to people in need of help by calling. When they call, they can text, they can chat, they can email. So any way someone needs that help, they can get to us. Last year, we responded to over 100,000 requests for help. Of those, 4,000 were from people who identified themselves as residents of Delray Beach. Of those, over 200 were people who were actively suicidal. So these are people who are thinking about taking their own life. So the numbers are staggering. The need in the community is great. The good news is that our caring and trained staff were there for them every single hour of the day and night. And so that's why awareness efforts like this are so vital, so that all the residents of Delray Beach know that if they're struggling, if they're in need of help, or if they're feeling at their wits' end, help is as simple as dialing 211. So thank you so much again for the recognition and awareness and your ongoing support of this life-changing work.
Really, thank you for everything you do. We have a proclamation for you here,
Thank you.
and I'm going to present it to you. Thank you for everything you do,
Thank you so much, Mayor.
and I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Next, we have a certificate of recognition for the 28 days of I Am Black History. We have Ann, Stacy, right, to make a presentation or make a comment to the City Commission. Yes? No? I'd always turn it over to Commissioner Randolph. He's an old hand at making remarks at the City Commission.
Oh, yeah. Commissioner, Mayor, Commissioner, to all. Thank you very much for the recognition. It's I Am Black History. It's a calendar, and I do have some calendars that I want to pass out, so you have copies of what's going on in the community. And at this time, I'll yield over to Ms. Ridley.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner. Thank you again for recognizing the work that the SET is doing in this community. We are trying to keep it as busy as we can, and we can. Thank you for 12 days of Christmas now, and we're into 28 days of Black History, so there's no rest for people that's working in our community. So again, thank you for the recognition. Thank you again, Commissioner Burns, who took the time out to help us as well to put this work together. So again, thank you, and continue to remember there are some black folks that live in the set. Thank you.
Take my shining moment away. I wait for this.
Sorry, we didn't know.
This is a copy. This has been signed. The certificate of recognition for the 28 days of I Am Black History, which I present to you on behalf of your organization.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for bringing always putting this in the front of our minds. Okay, we are now into public comments and inquiries on agenda and non-agenda items from the public immediately following the presentations. First will be the city manager's response to prior public comment.
So no formal responses to prior public comments. However, we do have a presentation, what will be the first of two presentations actually from leadership or representatives of Calvin Giordano and Associates regarding the Delray Beach Code Enforcement Division of the Department of Neighborhood and Community Services. I give you, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bernard Pita, who has a initial overview in terms of the review process relative to Code Enforcement Division operations and what the conclusion steps are anticipated to be over the next couple of weeks. Mr. Bernard Pita, I believe you have a PowerPoint in position to help facilitate your dialogue. Please.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Bernard Pita from the Director of Code Services for Calvin Giordano and Associates. Will you be switching this for? This here? Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that I do this properly. Okay, on the first slide, this is just showing some of the accomplishments that have happened thus far. I had some in-person meetings and interviews with code staff. I had interviews with department leadership, with the code division leadership, the administrator, supervisor, lead code officer. Also, I had interviews and observations with the code enforcement administrative team, and also the code officers. I've had group meetings, individual meetings, and also ride-alongs to kind of see what the folks are doing there. I found that your code department is very unique. It's got a lot of tentacles in it. It's not just a silo where it's just code enforcement. They actually contribute a lot to the city, which I'm finding out. So I felt the next steps, collaborating with city staff and city management. The next steps will be to interview 5 stakeholders in addition to just the code department or the division, because they're the ones that are actually utilizing code for these different things that they serve the community with. And then the next step will be to meet with staff in order to finalize the final report. Excuse me. So the next slide that I have is the timelines. My meetings and interviews for the stakeholders are going to be completed, I anticipate, by mid to late February. Then the finalized report will be mid to late February, hopefully mid to late February, maybe sooner. And then the final presentation for the commission will be by March of 2025. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Rob, any questions? No? No questions?
You know I do. Thank you. Thank you. Can we talk a little bit about what your scope of work is? How do you see your report helping the city of Delray Beach? What's your scope? What are you looking to accomplish for us in this report?
So I'd like to commend the commission for actually proactively calling for this based on a crisis that happened. And basically, my scope is to go into the code department and now go to these, or division, and go to these different departments and find opportunity, which there are, for improvements in order to be a better code department and also collaborate better in order to better serve the community.
Thanks. Because if I may, and forgive me, when your report came in, it came on our agenda as a final report presentation, 35-page report. But the city looked at it and it needed some tweaking. And I asked the city for it, and I frankly feel like it's not accomplishing what I had anticipated that it would accomplish. From my perspective, some of our needs, and if you don't mind, may I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
Were you informed of what the issues of concern were in the city? An employee, accused of bribery and extortion. Another employee in the department, we wondered if that individual removed a lien from their own property without going through the proper process. There are questions of, is this department being utilized in different ways for different people? And by that I mean, are the same consequences being applied to each situation across the board? Why, when we are implementing liens and going through the full process, a year later, are they not on the property? These are some of the questions that I'm looking for answers to. And while I appreciate your report, a lot of it, none of it focused on some of the specific issues. And I think it was page 10, you talked about how we're in compliance with the statute. I think it's 162, but we're really not. We're giving notices and we're not telling people who's reporting them, and that is a requirement of the statute unless it's a health, safety, or wellness emergency. So we're technically, I would argue, we're not in compliance. Also, I noticed you didn't at all reference our Code of Ordinances, Chapter 37 in your report, which typically I would think your report would reference our specific code in conjunction with the statute. So can I just give you a couple things that I would like to see in this report, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Fabulous. Did you look at our employee files? You went through that entire department. Did you review the employee files for the employees in that department?
That, I don't believe, is a part of the scope of doing the assessment for the
Well,
process part of
I
code.
think it ought to be, because it's sort of telling about what might be going on in that department. Did you look at our Code of Ordinances? They're online on Municode.
Yes, I did take a look at them and also went on the website to see what was available there for that.
Okay, because there's no reference to the fact that we may or may not be in compliance with our own procedures. In fact, you say we are, and I would argue respectfully we're not, or we wouldn't be in this position that we find ourselves in. Have you reviewed how we put together our legal notices and if they're in compliance? Because that I would like to see. I don't think that they are. I would like if you would review our relief process and see if it relates to what other cities around us are doing, because I think that's important. And none of this is in the report that you gave us. I would like it if you would look at our, do we have stipulated settlement agreements? And if so, are they consistent with what you see in the surrounding areas? Are our violations tiered? And if so, do you think that the tiering is appropriate? Because I would like to know, a tiered system typically ensures violators aren't targeted. It's sort of like, this is your violation, this is your consequence. It's so people won't have to guess what they're doing in our department. Also, our processes for repeat offenders, do you think that those processes are good? If not, what would you recommend? Do we have rolling fines? I don't know, but I would like your report to tell me if we do. Do we have good incentives for compliance? Because that's truly our goal. And I know you still need to review the board process, but I'd also like you to look at fine mitigation. When someone gets a fine, are we giving the opportunity to pay it off quickly with a reduction or not? And how are we handling that? That's what I would like to see in the report. And your organization did a similar report in 2019. The city is, oh God, I'm probably going to pronounce it incorrectly, Dunedin.
Yes.
But I would like
I
you
was
to
part of that.
replicate that report for us.
Okay.
Because the report that you provided does not cut the mustard for me. I'm sorry. But I appreciate your time, and I look forward to your final report. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Okay, look forward to getting the report.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I yield at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
We now have comments from members of the public. We're going to try to limit our time because I don't know, in terms of if a whole group is trying to speak on the same subject, I'd kind of like to know that because I don't want everyone to get up and say the same thing and we have 25 people saying the exact same thing. So it's hard to tell now, but if there's any groups here or things like that, I'd like to know. And anyway, it is public, so you come up to the lectern if you signed, you give your name and address.
Yes, I have.
For the record, and
Mayor, point of order.
yes,
So would you like to tell the public that for item 7B, which is a quasi-judicial matter, that needs
Yeah.
to wait until later?
right, that's what I'm going to say.
That's the Gunite appeal.
Right. 7B is note that this is, we have, 7B has to do with the fluoride in the water, and that is, sorry? What did I say?
You said 7B.
Oh, sure,
7A.
sorry, so 7A is going to be that discussion, and so if what you have to say relates to that, the fluoride, then I'm going to ask that you please wait until that agenda item comes up, and then take it for there. No, that's fine, I'm just doing what everybody asks. So anyway, you're on.
My name is Sean Thomas Wright. I actually have two addresses. One of them is 5419 Greenwood Drive. The other one is 30 Lake Court, Delray Beach. I actually came to speak to all of you, and all of you in the
You need to
police
address your
department.
comments
No
to the
problem.
commission.
So I come here with grave concerns about the management of our city, okay? And at this point, even what I just saw in this presentation leaves me with so many questions. Being the fact that I myself have an education to be an auditor, I don't know how you could all sit here and kind of, how should we say, just be status quo where things are just fine, because they're really not. Now, I appreciate things happen, problems happen, problems need to be addressed, okay? That's not happening. I think one of our commissioners is pointing that out, who happens to be in the same neighborhood who I'm from. You know, if you're not addressing problems, what are you doing? Because from my aspect of it, I love you release information, right? But when information you release shows that you guys knew a problem 18 months ago, like a firefighter wrecking his car, and then claiming that there was no probable cause, but you can't explain the wreck, and then it looks like the police department went out of their way to not do a drug test, to not do a field sobriety test. How do you explain that? I mean, some of us have law degrees in here, like our city attorney, who I've lost all confidence in, and I think she should be terminated. I also think that our police chief now needs to be terminated. And I think that some of our members up on this commission need to be replaced. And at this point, given my family is one of the oldest families in the city, nobody pays me to do this. You know, when I go over to Murakami, where I give lectures on our history, it's out of the goodness of my heart, because that's what this is supposed to be about. I don't need to go over to non-for-profits and act like I'm a CPA when I'm not. I don't need to tell people that I'm out doing all this good, when in actuality, there's crises everywhere. This is the reality of what's going on. Now, the simple fact is some of us do have law degrees, and we can sit here and lawyer this up. Look at the common sense. Somebody drives a Jeep, they go off-road, there's not an accident, but somehow that's not probable cause. So at this point, I'm going to leave and say that when I go out, I'm telling everybody that I grew up with, the people out in the set, that the police department are no longer any good and corrupt, and there is problems with the city commission, and the police chief needs to go, so does the city attorney. Thank you for your time.
Hi, My name is Mitchell Revsine, Revsine. I live at 1105 Kingston Lane, right across the street from Popstroke. I'm here to complain about the noise. I've been here a couple times to complain about the noise in Popstroke. I was most recently here around Thanksgiving time, and after that, the town went to Popstroke, and Popstroke said they were going to put some new trees in to block the noise of the speakers. Well, they're toying with us. The trees aren't tall enough to block the noise. They could solve the problem today or any day by lowering the height of the speakers and just turning down the volume to an acceptable level. I can hear the noise inside my house, and I know from the noise ordinance, section 9903, and I'll just summarize it. It basically says no one should make a noise that another person can hear from more than 100 feet away. However, the ordinance also says it will only be enforced between midnight and 7 a.m. I don't understand that. Why not just say, well, you can make as much noise as you want between 7 a.m. and midnight? So Popstroke makes noise throughout the day. In fact, at 7:02 a.m., they'll start running what I think is leaf blowers, which are very loud, for over an hour every morning for 7 days a week. I'm asking if we can please either change the ordinance, have a decibel limit, to do something. This affects, I know this is not as important as a lot of other issues, but for the people who live around there, we hear the noise throughout the day, and they're open 7 days a week. I'm asking if we could have them lower the speakers, lower the volume, and also maybe change the noise ordinance to have some decibel limit. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Pamela Williams of 245 Northwest 8th Avenue, The Set. I am speaking to, good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor, my favorite attorney, my old boss, city manager. I'm speaking tonight in reference to the Bilo Community Market located on Northwest 8th Avenue, just north of Atlantic Avenue. I am pleased to say there were some law enforcement presence just recently. Super happy. I called each one of my commissioners. Thank you all for those who answered and called me back, and those who didn't. Mayor, Mr. Tom, you're forgiven. I am so very happy to see we're working together to get things done there. From what I'm hearing, what the infraction was illegal gambling machines in the back. My statement and or concern is, in the past, we had an excellent program under the leadership of Amanda Scabaris, where as a project manager, I'm not sure if I'm calling it a downtown manager, she went into those stores bi-weekly with law enforcement presence. I think it's Officer Steed. Every 2 weeks, they made sure the BTRs were up to date. I have no idea what that means either, but it's business tax receipt. When they weren't in compliance, they were able to ding them on that. In my research, we haven't been there since the absence of Amanda Scabaris, and if I am incorrect, I'd love for our new incoming director to correct me on that. He has no code violations against them for his inadequate parking, whether it's the marking of it or landscaping. It isn't just him allowing the illegal activity, it's the appearance of that space. Thank you, and Chief, we're friends now. Thank you for getting someone out there, but let's work on the appearance of it as well. Again, I stated to just have a house less than a block from me to sell for $990,000, and to have a homicide to the other end of the block when I think it could have been prevented had we given them a hard time about keeping up their landscaping. And I'm hoping we can, some kind of way, if not eminent domain, sweeten the pot to have them to sell that. We buy everything else. I'm still looking at the empty lot on the corner of Congress and Lycata. I don't know what we're going to do with that, but my refund, I'd like to have that back if nothing's going to be done. And we can put that towards us possibly sweetening the pot to acquire the Bilo's property and have the entire corridor a nice welcoming as we go downtown. So thank you, and I look forward to trees and parking in the new future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now when I call y'all, I'm just about to pick the phone up.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. staff, my name's Harvey Brown. My address is 200 South Ocean Boulevard here in Delray Beach. I am here to speak about Unity Church and School at 101 Northwest 22nd Street. When we found out that the Swinton Avenue was going to be repaved, which is a good thing. I think Truman was president last time they paved it. He may have still been in the Senate. So. We jumped into action. We found out there's going to be a roundabout put in, a single-lane roundabout, which caused us some initial concern. We still have concerns about that. I would like to say that Missy and her team have been very generous with their time working with us. We're grateful for that, but as of this point in time, a solution to our parking lots, we have big parking lots there. We're going to have 425 students this coming year. Presently, we have 412, as well as having church services on Sunday. Unity has been there forever. I was baptized in that church, so it's at least 40 years old.
Yeah, 39.
So with that in mind, here's what we need. We have had some engineers out there looking at it. We've had contractors looking at it. The nature of the roundabout is such that where we currently have stop signs, there are the 4 cardinal directions, and 3 of those directions have turn lanes. That's all going to be condensed down to this roundabout. And when it functions, I'm sure it functions well. Being a single lane, though, it better function, otherwise we're crippled at pick up and drop off time. I've seen some people in this room whose kids have gone to Unity, and pick up and drop off time, like a number of the schools here in town, can be pretty busy. What I would like is for you all to be aware, and we will probably be reaching out because we're going to need some assistance, financial assistance probably, to redo these parking lots. It is a sea change. We're literally changing the directions of everything. It isn't going to be as simple as blacktopping and restriping. It's a big deal, and we've been told we'll probably also need to put in now a cutout lane for people getting in line. We're not here to say the Swinton improvements aren't warranted. They are. We're glad they're doing them. We appreciate city staff working so hard on it. This was unintended and unrealized, and it's become evident to us as we've seen people, engineers, city people get out there and look at it like, oh, it just, and that's the nature of the beast. These things happen. But we'd like to appeal to you. We're going to need some help. So I appreciate your time, and we appreciate all the good things you do for this town. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Ridley. I live at 210 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Delray Beach. I'm here today to, you guys have the Black History calendar, but I'm going to just specifically talk about one day. February the 8th, we're going to be celebrating one of your commissioner who used to be before he was a commissioner, was a councilman on February the 8th. And also he'll be turning 89 on this Saturday. Mr. David Randolph will be honoring former commissioner on this Saturday. So I'm hoping that you guys will come out and support your own that's sitting in here returning 89. It's this Saturday at 11 o'clock at the Delray Beach Golf Club. And we made the tickets only $35. Please come out and support Mr. David Randolph and celebrate his birthday as he turned 89 this Friday as well. Happy birthday.
George Long, 46 North Swinton. I'm not accepting any resignations. I heard a lot of complaints out here. You guys are doing all right. And while I'm saying you're doing all right, probably not a bad idea to ask a lot of questions about code enforcement, but my impression is that I really like those guys, all of them. I've been busted more than once, and everybody has been very polite and explained everything, and there was no problem. I'm looking forward to getting busted again.
We have your code enforcement rap sheet right here. Just put you
okay. Anyway, good job. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Commissioner Randolph.
Thank you, sir. I'm Dave Randolph. I reside at Hot 105 Northwest 11th Avenue. I'd like to say that the best things in life are the people we love, and I extend that to this commission, our police department, our staff, because I know what a tough job it is to sit up there. Thank you. And when I say that the best things in life are the people we love, the places we have been, and the memories that we made along the way. It's for certain that we don't have to extend forward certain things to make this city click, but in 3 times, 1993, 2001, and 2017, we've been celebrated as a gorgeous city. Not just an all-American city, but a gorgeous city. And I can appreciate the hard work that you guys put into your job. That's right. And I thank you for it. Because having been set in that seat where Commissioner Long is sitting now for 14 years, I feel that I have the privilege to say that. Not that I'm looking forward for any accolades, because I've had my share. I look at City Manager Terrence Moore. We happen to be going tomorrow morning, hopefully, to the Sunrise Kiwanis Club, in which I am one of the founders. Thank you for allowing me to address you this evening, and God bless each and every one of you.
See you tomorrow morning.
And Commissioner Randolph, it's an honor to fill your seat.
Good evening. My name is Greta Britt. I am on the ministerial staff with St. Paul AME Church located at 119 Northwest 5th Avenue. But before I get into that, I want to echo and ditto what Commissioner Randolph just said. So, thank you. But I would like to extend an invitation to you all to our 68th annual organizational tea, in which your colleague, Commissioner Angela Burns, will be one of our honorees. I did send each of you an email with specific information on how to purchase an ad in support of our event, and also your colleague. Also, this is a community event where we honor men and women in our community, as well as our church, for the hard work that they have done in building a beloved community. So again, we're extending our invitation to you. If I can leave these with you, you can take one. And we look forward to seeing you on February the 16th, 3 o'clock at Pompey Park. Be there, or I will remember. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the, just when I thought it was safe, Mr. Jim Quinlan.
James Quillian, 925 Southeast 2nd Avenue. I see you guys got your place full, so I'll try to make it short. I'm here tonight because of issues with the Marina District, specifically the Marina. For some time now, usually I try to work within the city to not come and bother the commission with questions and queries when I can talk to someone in the city. But the people that have boats at the marina and the residents that have homes at the marina area have been like in flux with understanding exactly what's going to be happening with the city marina, like that, and we don't have any clue at all what the policy is going to be in the future, who's going to be allowed to stay, who they're going to ask to leave, who they're going to ask to come. We see a flux of empty spots quite often that are there, way more than they should be throughout the year, considering that there's a waiting list to be in the marina. And so there doesn't seem to be transparency in what the decisions being made are with the marina. And all we ask as boat owners and also some of the residents of the area, they want transparency in what is going to happen with the city marina, and then they want to be a part of the decision-making process. And that's why we have commission meetings, for transparency, for light. We don't want things hidden in the dark and decided without the public's attention or input. So thank you very much. If you could address that, when you're able, and let the public know what the plans are for the future of the marina. Thank you.
Mr. Quinlan, I will get you an update.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no other members of the public, public comment is closed. We now have the consent agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we need a motion. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Good. All right. Item 7AA, which is formerly item 6A, City Commission meeting minutes.
Oh, sugar, I put my notes somewhere. Sorry, give me a sec. There was just one item, and I typically read the agenda earlier, and I caught it late, but in the 1:21:25 minutes on page 8, it should read Unity School, not Palm Beach County School. If we could just make that change. So could I get a motion to approve 7AA with that amendment?
So moved. Second?
Second.
All in
What,
favor?
is that okay? Did you want to say something? I'm sorry. I think Lynn is looking at you to be acknowledged.
The mayor calls for the motions.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. Done.
Thank you.
All right. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's great. Okay, item 7A. This is the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach will decide whether to continue or discontinue the addition of fluoride to the city's potable water system. Mr. Hajimiri?
Mr. Hajimiri, Director of Utilities, can please come forward. In response to a dialogue that took place to this effect during your Tuesday, January 7, 2025, regular City Commission meeting, a commitment was made to offer a follow-up presentation to help facilitate the consideration to continue the addition of fluoride to the city's potable water system. And given the direction to bring on board an outside expert, if you will, both Hassan Hajimiri and I worked rather frivolously to get somebody of note to join you for a discussion to this effect. And at this time, I'd like to give Mr. Hajimiri the privilege of introducing exactly who that is. From there, the City Commission can go forward. Mr. Hajimiri, if you would,
Thank
please.
you. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner. Yes, we are honored to have the presence of Surgeon General for the state of Florida, which is the top figure in for Department of Health, here to provide us information for fluoridation. And if you recall, last time when January meeting that we had, I referenced to articles that was issued by by Surgeon General's office regarding that, and also article by Journal of American Medical Association. By the way, I'm no physician, I'm an engineer, so I just wanted to bring hopefully the honest view of the fluoridation for you to consider. So if you allow me, Dr. Loropo, the
Please.
Surgeon General for the state of Florida.
Thank you. Mr. Surgeon, Surgeon General, on behalf of the City Commission, welcome you to Delray Beach. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to address us on this issue that is very important to a lot of people in this city, you know, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you for, for caring enough about your community to, to be at the front of an issue that can be uncomfortable when you're at the front of an issue. And hello, everyone. I enjoyed some of the discussion I got to hear. I mean, if you have a Vietnam veteran talking and a former member of the council, what else is there to say? So, hello to all of you. My name's Dr. Joe Latipo. I'm the Surgeon General of the state. I'm also a professor of medicine at the University of Florida. Governor DeSantis appointed me about 3.5 years ago to this position, and prior to that, I was a professor at at UCLA in Los Angeles, and primarily doing research, also taking care of hospitalized patients. So that's my background, and in terms of research, I've led multiple NIH funded clinical trials, and I'm a big advocate of health, and I think, obviously in Florida we've done things differently with many public health issues, and I think really the right way in terms of thinking about health in a way that's holistic and is a way that's forward-looking rather than sort of fear-looking, if you will. So this issue of fluoridation, I'm happy to be speaking to you about it, and it's one of these issues that I get that it can make a lot of people uncomfortable because we get used to certain things, and a change in the direction can be uncomfortable. Just, we have our beliefs, and sometimes things challenge those beliefs. But sometimes when things challenge our beliefs, it's worth paying attention to the discomfort and to explore that area. So I myself, my wife has been. I like to mention that my wife is the intuitive half of our marriage, and she directs our health. I'm the doctor, but she's definitely the health leader of our family in terms of nurturing the health of our kids and me. And for years, she's actually been raising some concerns with me about fluoride. She's urged me to look at the literature, to read some of the scientific studies, and I've tried, but it's been hard to make headway. But back in September, there was a federal ruling. A judge ruled that the EPA needed to do more to regulate fluoride in water. And this caught my attention. I read the ruling, most of the ruling. It's a very clearly written ruling. And the ruling was informed by literally a mountain of evidence, many, many studies about the association, a harmful association between fluoride and neuropsychiatric health outcomes, specifically in women who are pregnant and their children, and just in children in general. So this ruling prompted me to look more closely at the issue. And there's a part of the Department of Health and Human Services, that department that Bobby Kennedy will hopefully be leading, that however you feel about it, but there's a part of that department. Bobby's a friend of mine, so there's a part of that department called that is the National Toxicology Program, and the National Toxicology Program, again, it's part of Department of Health and Human Services, and they actually did a review of probably 70 or 80 studies that have looked at the association between fluoride and health outcomes. And the studies are very consistent. What they find is that when there's more fluoride in the urine or the blood of pregnant women or children, the children tend to have lower IQs, lower intelligence, not by a little bit, but actually substantially, and also potentially behavioral changes. So things like ADHD and hyperactivity disorder, for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and other disorders related to neurologic function. And then there are other concerns, potentially harms to the thyroid, harms to the pineal gland, and sleep disturbance. But the bottom line is that there are dozens of studies that have shown this adverse relationship. And I, as a physician and someone who works in public health, reviewing these studies, again, a report put together by the National Toxicology Program, I was stunned that I was really unaware of this relationship. Since that time, we issued guidance in the state based on this evidence, and in addition, so the risks were becoming clearer and clearer. And on the benefit side, that's actually becoming less and less clear. And it's not, I don't want to attack fluoride, but the Cochrane collaboration, so they're a scientific group, they're a leading scientific review group. Some of you may have heard of them. They actually did a review, I think it was published last year. So all of this is sort of just coming to the fore, that looked at the benefits they tried to quantify the benefits of fluoridation in water. And what they found, their words were really like, there may be no benefit at this point. So they looked at studies that were published after 1975. And when fluoridation started, people didn't have wide access to fluoridated toothpaste. They didn't have ready access to fluoridated mouthwashes. And in this review, they looked at the more recent studies since 1975, which still sounds like, we're not talking about incredibly recent studies here. And they found that there may not be any benefit, or at most a small benefit, to continuing to fluoridate from a dental perspective. One argument you'll hear from people who want to retain fluoride in water is that, all of those studies, and by the way, the relationship is not, there's no debate about it. Those studies speak very clearly to a relationship between more fluoride exposure and more neurotoxic harms. So sometimes you'll hear that, well, those studies, they were all done in China or India or some other country, and not in countries that fluoridate water to the levels we fluoridate. So in other words, countries that fluoridate to higher levels. And it just so happens that in the past few years, we now have studies that have looked at these same health outcomes in the United States and in Canada, where levels of fluoridation are comparable, and they find the same thing. When you look at moms who are pregnant, when you look at kids who have more fluoride in their bodies from their exposure in water and from other sources, they on average have lower IQs. It hurts intelligence. It's neurotoxic. They have more behavioral problems. They have more problems with executive function. So the argument that these studies are all studies that happen in other countries that use different levels, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up at all. Now this new evidence is showing the same thing. So based on this, I recommended that it's really a practice that should stop. And there's so many health issues, right? We've got so many challenges. We've got problems with, sometimes things that are in our food. There are sometimes issues with things that are in our air. There are all sorts of environmental exposures that are a challenge to human health. And this is one that we can do something about. So that's why I issued the guidance, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions. To me, it seems pretty straightforward based on the available evidence at this time, what the better decision for health is. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions from council members or anyone else, commissioners, or anyone else who may have a question.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have questions with Commissioner Long?
At this point, no, but I do want to thank Dr. Latipo for coming here tonight. We really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Markert. Oh, public comment first? Okay, we'll do public comment first. Thank you. If you would, we're going to invite the public to come up and speak, and we're going to get back to you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Members of the public who wish to address this topic, Please come to the lectern, give your name and address. You will each have 3 minutes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Gunite. I'm a board-certified periodontist practicing full-time in Boca Raton, Florida for the last 35 years. My address is 2365 Northwest 46th Street, Boca Raton. My education and training are from Cornell University, Boston University, and the University of Pennsylvania. I teach at 2 universities, published over 50 articles and book chapters, and have lectured around the world on dentistry. My experience in treating patients has given me a deep understanding of dental disease patterns and long-term oral health outcomes. One of the most concerning issues I see on a daily basis is the domino effect in dentistry. It starts with a single cavity, which leads to a filling. Over time, that filling breaks down and requires a larger replacement. Eventually, the tooth may need a crown, and when that fails, a root canal, and maybe a dental implant, or it's lost to a bridge or something like that. These treatments are costly, invasive, anxiety-producing, and most importantly, preventable. I can usually tell within minutes whether a new patient grew up in an area of fluoridated water. People with a mouthful of fillings, crowns, and missing teeth almost certainly did not, while those with only a few small fillings likely had fluoridated water as kids. One of my practice partners is a perfect example. He lived in a non-fluoridated area until he was 4, while his younger brother was born and raised in fluoridated Coral Springs. Both received the same high level of dental care from their father, who was an endodontist. Yet today, my partner has multiple crowns, fillings, and even a dental implant, while his brother has none. Was fluoride the key factor? We'll actually never know, but he believes that it was. I understand the City Commission can't be experts in health policy or dental science. That's why it's important to defer to expert organizations like the CDC, WHO, the American Dental Association, the U.S. Public Health Service, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, who all support fluoridation. While concerns about fluoride toxicity exist, the recommended level of 0.7 part per million is well below harmful levels that are expressed in the literature. In fact, the most recent publication that I found, which is in the Journal of the American Medical Association Pediatrics, dated January 2025, so it's pretty current. It shows no effect on intelligence when fluoride concentrations are less than 1.5 parts per million. The recommended level is 0.7. It's more, their threshold is more than twice the recommended levels. To quote from the conclusions, the association was null and less than 1.5 milligrams per liter. We've seen what happens when communities
You need to
remove
wrap this
fluoride.
up, sir.
Yes, I know. You gave Dr. Latipo a lot of time. I have one paragraph left.
Excuse me. He was you're a member of the public speaking.
Okay. Very good.
I think given Dr. Ganonel's pedigree and experience, I think he deserves a little more time to finish his.
Thank you.
Absolutely. If
I just said he needed to wrap it up.
That's fine. Yeah, just give it a little, 30 more seconds.
We've seen what happens when communities remove fluoride. Calgary, Canada saw cavity rates of children increase by 25% within 7 years of ending fluoridation, and severe decay cases requiring general anesthesia rose by 78%. Same patterns are true in Juneau, Alaska versus Anchorage, Alaska. This is not a simple issue and might need a workshop to fully evaluate. You need to decide if Delray Beach is going to follow the path of Calgary and Juneau or Anchorage and Edmonton. I urge you to keep fluoridation in place. It's one of the most simple and cost-effective ways to ensure lifelong dental health. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have copies of
I would
some of
appreciate
my
that.
source
Thank you.
material.
Hi, my name is Dr. Richard Kitt. I'm a dentist in Boca Raton. I practiced in Boca for 20 years. I practiced in downtown Delray for 15 years before that, right on 6th Avenue. And I do not have the pedigree of my colleague, Dr. Gunite, but I have been practicing in South Florida for 40 years now. And before I came here today, I did some of my own research. And one of the articles which I pulled up, which I can give to the City Commission, is from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Now, hearing what Dr. Gunite just said, who I have an incredible amount of respect, he's one of the most brilliant surgeons I've ever dealt with, okay? And his credentials, he has taught me so much dentistry over the years that I can't say anything, but he is one of the smartest people I've ever met, okay? This article, which I pulled up earlier today before I came here, actually replicates most of what he said today. And this came out on November 26, 2024, from the Bloomberg School of Health at Johns Hopkins, basically stating that fluoridation should stay in the water, as well as all the recommendations from the CDC, et cetera, et cetera. I just think it's important. Not, like I said, I'm just a general dentist who's been practicing here a long time. I've seen what it does, and also in the areas of underprivileged people not getting fluoride in their water during tooth development, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very important issue, and I just thought I should come here and say something and try and back up the dental community. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Need to pass it to
Greetings, my name is Angela Hill, 1101 Northwest 3rd Terrace. I just wanted to make a statement with regards to that from a standpoint of being a mother and now Amina, aka grandmother. I would much rather increase the fluoride internally in my home by way of toothpaste, mouthwash, and other things than to continue it in my water. With anything that we decide when it comes to our health, we have to consider the pros and the cons. And I think the cons with fluoride far outweighs the positive, the pros. I would rather for my boys to have no teeth and dentures than for them to be on medication the rest of their lives for ADHD, or for them to have a neurological incapacity or affected in that manner. I would much rather have a healthy mind and a steadfast child than to have someone with pretty teeth. So I think we just need to weigh the pros and cons and to do continuous research. But I do not wish, and if I remember my research correctly, I don't think Boca has fluoride in their water. So it was very insightful that the dentist came from Boca. So Angela, and I say no to fluoride in my water.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Tandy. I'm a dentist here in South Florida. I am a retired dentist. I practiced in Connecticut for 40 years before moving down here. I live in 100 McFarlane Drive. I presently teach at Nova College of Dental Medicine. I was co-chair of the West Palm Beach Mission of Mercy that we had a couple of years ago, where we saw 1,500 patients in 2 days, and people who did not necessarily have fluoride in their water. I'm here today to kind of reiterate some of the info that we've heard, but I went through this same process when I lived in Connecticut. We had the same, I'll call it fluoride wars, about 15 years ago. But this is not really a political issue. This is a public health issue. Dentistry is a learned profession. We make our decisions on research and evidence, which has served the public well. 70 years of research have proved the efficacy of water fluoridation at the prescribed levels of 0.7 parts per million. And that's how we are supplementing our water. Everyone has seen the reams of data and papers and this paper and that paper, etc. But I'm going to bring a more human side to this. I don't think any of you have ever really seen the effect of fluoride on your patient base because you don't have patients. Those of us who are in the profession, we have seen that difference. I practiced in an area for 40 years that had both public water supplies that was fluoridated and well water. This is in Connecticut. Just as been mentioned before, a patient could walk in my office, especially kids, and immediately my partners, my staff would know whether they had well water with no fluoride or fluoridated public water. The difference that we saw was extreme. Even over the past 40 years, demographics of dental disease have changed significantly. Those with fluoridation in public water, we see much less decay in patients than we did years ago. But let's think about why dentistry would say, oh, let's stand up for fluoride. If we took fluoride out of the water, what would that mean? Could be the new golden age of dentistry. There would be increased needs of restorative services, decreased access to care with the workforce that we have in place, and further strains on Medicaid and Medicare, especially with increased dentistry being in Medicare. So what I'd like you all to think is undoing one of the most successful public health wins in the past half century would be irresponsible and tragic. Please continue this supplementation at the recommended levels. Your decision will have a huge impact on the smiles of Delray Beach.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Commission. My name is G. Marie Naser. I'm at 9473 Glider Way in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm also a registered nurse in the state of Florida and New York State. I also addressed the County Commission on this issue today, and I commend you for taking this up on the agenda and letting the public speak. I think this really comes down to choice. I think when you look at the water that you are supplying to the city, it's not a mandate by the EPA to include the fluoride. This is a choice of the city, but it's not a choice of the residents. So whether residents like it or not, they cannot turn that fluoride off in their water unless they want to invest in reverse osmosis systems. So it's really about giving the patient a choice. Dr. Latipo touched upon the ruling that came from the federal judge. I just want to read, this is what the judge said in his ruling. He said that despite recognizing that fluoride is hazardous, the EPA's defense rested largely on the fact that the exact level at which it is hazardous is too unclear for the agency to determine whether the chemical presents an unreasonable risk. And we've heard from several dentists in here. I personally choose a dentist whose website right now lists fluoride as a toxic chemical and does not use fluoride for his patients. So that is a choice that I make, and I think that is the hallmark of our country, to be able to choose which care we want to seek, to choose what we want in our bodies. But when you leave the fluoride in the water, people don't have the choice to take it out. And, in Dr. Latipo's guidance, he spells it out. The Department of Health has several measures where people can get fluoride, that it's not coming from their shower head, it's not coming in their little kid's bath. I learned in nursing school, the skin is the fifth, the largest organ of the body. You absorb so much through your skin. And something I came across from NIH guidance, National Institute of Health, it's a guide for practitioners, is that they really don't know the body levels of fluoride that are safe. It's not studied. So while we can debate all day what levels of water are safe, what is the impact on the human body? And each body is different. So that's why we should have the autonomy as people to choose how we want to receive fluoride or not receive fluoride, which dentist we want to receive. But by just putting it in the water, this city is eliminating the choice. And there is risk, and it's really imperative that you look at that risk and you give people a choice and you don't force it upon them, because there is no mandate from any agency other than this body right here. And that's why home rule is important, and that's why patient autonomy and patient choice is important. So thank you for taking this issue up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to address the commission on this matter? Seeing none, to the commission. At this time, are you ready, Mr. Long?
Sure, let's do it. Well, first of all, I want to again thank our Surgeon General for making the trek down here to offer his insight and expertise in this matter. I also want to thank Dr. Canellis, who I've known for a long time as well and have a lot of esteem for, and all the other folks who spoke out to offer their expertise and their insights on this issue. This is a tricky issue for us, right? I wish we didn't have to make this call. This isn't an easy decision. And I've done a lot of research since the last meeting that we had here. And there is a lot of articles and studies, and you really have to go pretty deep down the rabbit hole to figure out what is more credible and what frankly isn't. And it's still not an easy decision to make, because I think both sides have made genuine arguments in regard to choice. That is a legitimate argument, but there's also an argument to say that if we took fluoride out of the water, the folks who are the most underserved in the community would be the ones who suffer the most. And so I do think we do have a responsibility to look out for those folks as well. We can't just say, go buy it now, something you've gotten for decades, now go buy it. That's also not a great option. And when I hear from folks in our dental community who have been in it for decades, dealing directly with patients, who lecture and are very familiar with the studies, and I'll be honest, some of these other studies that reference the ADHD and the IQ and stuff like that, most of those were not on this continent. I'm frankly not, and I know Miss Dr. Latipo, and I'd love to have time to look them up, but I haven't seen any ones in North America that yielded the same results. And those results did feel more correlative to me than causational. And so I at this point, and I know this is an about face from where I was at on this last time. I'm not a guy that usually changes positions, but I do think we have to be open to evolving on positions as we do research and learn more. And I've talked to quite a few members of our community as well that want fluoride to stay in Delray water. And so at this point, that is the direction that I'm leaning, although I would be open to further workshop this issue and hear more. But if we do vote tonight, I am going to vote to keep fluoride in Delray Beach water. Thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioner Burns.
I've done some research since we talked about this last as well, and as an educator, it kind of gave me a little understanding of some of the things that I saw in our children when in my 34 years as an educator. I just feel, as someone said, choice, that we should give the people the right to choose for themselves and their families. I think there are many ways that we can get fluoride to students in the schools, in the home, and I don't think that it should be forced upon them in the water. I would be inclined to vote against continuing the fluoridation. I did a survey, and my goal was to survey 200 residents in Delray. I didn't complete my goal. I think I got about 90, but I only had one that was borderline, and she wanted to know the amounts of fluoride that you have. And everybody on my survey said no to the fluoride, so my vote would be no to continue the fluoride for the city of Delray.
Commissioner, no, you can go.
Okay, I was wondering if I might ask you a question.
Yes, please. Would you mind coming up to the lectern?
Thank you so much.
We left that option open.
I would say thank you for coming. You traveled a long way, and we appreciate you being here. If you don't mind me saying, you don't appear to be a stranger to controversy. I've been following you, and one might say that about me. So I'm glad you're here, and I thank you. But you've taken some interesting positions, like with COVID. You basically said COVID vaccine lacks adequate testing and is therefore unsafe. And you know, that's the basis of the argument for everything, right? Is testing. And that's where I'm struggling here. Because as we sit here today, we're looking at a lot of testing that shows us the positive benefits. And even in your November 24 guidance, it says, I had to find this on the computer, so forgive me when other people were talking, I was on the computer. But you put out a report that says guidance on for community water fluoridation, November 22, 2024. And in this, you acknowledge that, excuse me, I'm scrolling down to find exactly your words. I don't want to misquote you. You acknowledge that, in fact, there is insufficient data to determine if the lower level of 0.7 milligrams per liter currently recommended for U.S. community water systems has a negative impact. So we know you're saying it could, but you can't acknowledge it. You're saying data is the best way to make determinations. And my issue, because I'm a mom and a commissioner, but I'm not I'm not a medical professional. My dentist says, yeah, it's the best thing for children. She's been a dentist. She has 2 young children herself. She treats my daughter. Absent data stating otherwise and considering 25 years of studies that support the use of fluoride, major public health groups, including the American Dental Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, supporting these programs, I would say to you, I am not hesitant to reconsider this, but I would really like to see data that weighs the benefits, and we can all acknowledge there are benefits. I have amazing teeth, 2 cavities. Thank you, fluoride. That's all I had in my whole life. And my cousin did not have the same water and had not amazing teeth. That's my personal experience, which is irrelevant. I'm just putting it out there. But I believe if you commission studies and you come back and you provide us with solid data, I would reconsider. But sitting here today, and in light of your own acknowledgement that there isn't data, I'm supporting keeping the fluoridation program going in Delray Beach. Ben, I thank you again for coming.
Thank you. I'd like to respond to your comments.
Yes,
I appreciate
please.
your comments and your sincerity also.
Thank you.
So I think just to be clear, I don't have my guidance memorized, but we presented. So the dentists, who I certainly appreciate their care of patients. We presented a number of studies that show this relationship. I mean, the relationship really isn't debatable. I mean, the neurotoxic relationship between fluoride and outcomes like intelligence and behavioral changes, that's really, I've heard no one actually debate that. I mean, that's very strong. But what we add that's very important is that there are now studies that evaluate the same outcomes in communities with levels of fluoridation that we have here in this country. There's a professor, for example, at the University of Florida, Dr. Ashley Mallon, and she's actually authored these studies, some of these studies. And they're studies of pregnant women and children in the United States and also in Canada. And so at these higher levels of fluoride, there's this not so bad and adverse relationship between levels of fluoride and the neurologic outcomes. And now with some of Dr. Ashley Mallon and other people's studies too, again in Canada and the United States, that relationship still exists. So while there's uncertainty, and I mean, obviously I had an opinion in my
Right.
guidance, otherwise I wouldn't have issued guidance. So while there's still uncertainty about the magnitude and things like that, there's in my assessment, and again, it's not an easy, this isn't an easy exercise to do. But in my assessment, if you have a body of literature that shows that the higher your level of fluoride is, the more neurologic harms you see. And the lower your level of fluoride is, the fewer neurologic harms you see. And then now you have that same relationship. It's something we call a dose-response relationship. It's one of the strongest signals of causality, or a causal relationship between something. So when you still see that at the lower levels, this dose-response relationship, while it's not, God didn't come down and tell us the answer. It's very strong evidence found in nature of a relationship. So in my mind, and again, individuals have to make their own decisions. You mentioned that I, had controversy. I haven't sought controversy. The only thing I've sought is truth. And I seek that for the benefit of my fellow human beings who I love. So in my mind, when you see something like that, that's it's reckless. I mean, it really is reckless to continue recommending that and waiting for more evidence. A dose-response relationship, that is evidence that should grab your attention. So if one day people can show that, well, the studies that we have right now from the United States are all wrong, then it's worth reconsidering. But in the meantime, to wait when you have this other body of evidence that shows relationship, I personally, I refer to it as public health malpractice, because I think it's wrong to do that. The evidence is already, for me, in my judgment, there's enough smoke there to warrant a concern about fire. So I understand it is a difficult decision. Over these last few years, there have been many difficult decisions, right? For example, in terms of my history, you can kind of look at the things I've said, and you can make a decision about whether those things were correct. I would argue, and some others would argue, that those decisions were in fact correct based on the evaluation of the available evidence, and that's not going to change. You can count on me to make the best decision I can with the available evidence. And,
Did you bring any of those studies that we could copy and hand out?
That my office would be happy to get those to you promptly. But I would say that in the guidance that we released, there are live URLs. So you can literally click and see, for example, the National Toxicology Programs Assessment, Dr. Ashley Mallon, and other studies that have been performed in the U.S. and Canada. So that's all there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Markert?
Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to everyone who's spoken on this topic today. It's really good for us up here to hear the opinions, and I've got respect for everybody that got up today. I'm a very data-driven person. I was at Nielsen, the television ratings company, for 27 years, and we were all about data and helping networks and programmers make decisions, but it was all fact-based decisions. This one is, to use a really bad basketball analogy, this one is a jump ball. It just is. The federal agencies are split in terms of their recommendations to us. That's bad. The medical communities are split. That's not good. I ran around my neighborhood over the weekend, and my neighbors are all split on this. It's literally right down the middle. I would like to see us go to a workshop on this. Right now, I would say, based on what I've heard, I'm probably leaning towards keeping the fluoride. But some of the questions that didn't get answered for me today are, we talk about other methodologies for delivering optimal fluoride to our residents. I would like to know what those are, how much those cost, and the obvious elephant in the room, if we're going to deliver fluoride in a different way, we're still delivering fluoride to the human body. Have we studied the effects of that? And I didn't hear that from any of the experts today, and that scares me. So I want to know more about these other delivery methods. Can we all afford them? Are they going to be beneficial? Are they going to cause neurological disorders like how we're delivering it from our water treatment plant today? And I didn't hear an answer to that. So I think this is a big issue. I think it needs more. It needs more thinking. And I think we should go to a workshop on it. Would be my recommendation.
Thank you very much. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people too. My family's actually from a medical family. I'm the only non-gainful person. I'm the lawyer. Everyone else became doctors, and they're living lives of Riley. Loser. But anyway, I spent a lot of time actually speaking with people who lived in Boynton and lived in Boca, neither of which have fluoride, and really and truly, I don't see that much of a measurable difference. At the time fluoride came out, and I will say that I was a fluoride baby. I mean, I had fluoride when I grew up, and I only had 2 cavities my entire life. So I'm very happy to have that. And I'm not denying that it probably had some kind of an impact. But it's interesting that we talk about the neurological things, and what drove me to look further into that research was someone said to me, well, you know, have you noticed there's more people with ADHD today? Have you noticed there's more people with this today? Why do you think that is? And I'm saying, you know, there are a lot of possible reasons. One of them, I don't know if it's true. One of them may be fluoride. I don't know. But there is certainly, it's not irrelevant that there may be some kind of connection. When fluoridation first came out, it was largely because in the communities which were spread out really didn't have the access to the same dental care, the same opportunities to have fluoride. But you know, today there's fluoride pills are free. Everyone's using fluoride toothpaste. And you know, when you put your 0.07 in the water and then you're adding additional fluoride because you're told to brush your teeth, you're told to do this, you're told to do that, you're actually increasing the safe volume of fluoride that they say you should have by all these other additives that you're doing by brushing your teeth. So I'm finding that it is absolutely 50-50 up and down, up and both ways, but I don't feel right imposing a chemical on people that really don't want to have a chemical in their system and yet have the same opportunity to have the fluoride protection by every other mechanism that's available to them. I mean, we start in our schools teaching kids about, you know, oral hygiene, and they learn to brush their teeth, and they and you know, all the checkups they have, they have ample opportunity to have fluoride. So imposing something that might be a problem, you know, this is not the first time in medicine where people have come out with, you know, medicines that came out bad. I mean, we went through the thalidomide scare. A lot of you don't know, some of you do, but that was a long time ago, where they gave it to all the pregnant women. And they thought, oh, this is great. It's going to help you with this, help you with that. Well, you know, it proved later it wasn't so good after all. So I'm not prepared to say that just because the medical people say this is a good thing to have, is a good thing to have, because we don't know. We just don't know. They're still finding out that there's long-term ramifications to the COVID vaccine. I had the COVID vaccine, happy I had it, but there are certain, you know, groups that are now seeing some negative effects to having the COVID vaccine. So I'm not prepared to force this matter on anybody. I mean, if you want to have a workshop, I'm prepared to make a decision, and I'm gonna say that we, apart from the fact that it's going to cost us $200,000, and I hate to reduce things to funds, and I wouldn't reduce things to funds if fluoride weren't readily available, which it is to everybody. Every mouthwash, every toothpaste, you have to really work at finding a toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride in it. You really do. And coupled with the general oral hygiene that all our kids, we're not in a rural area here. It's not like we're in the sticks somewhere. Delray is a very small community geographically, which has, you know, a lot of access to medicine, a lot of access to dental through the schools and elsewhere, that I don't want to force anything into somebody's body when they don't want to have it, particularly because they can get what they need at the ready, anytime, largely for free, by the way. Fluoride pills are free. So, yes, they are free. Palm Beach County gives them for free. You can look it up yourself. So, so in any case, so I'm prepared to make a decision today. I mean, I don't know why we want to do a workshop. If you want to do a workshop later on, I mean, that doesn't seem to make any sense, because we need to get this answered. We need to get an answer. I support Commissioner Burns in this. I don't know how everybody else is, but you are pretending that somehow if you take this away, suddenly kids aren't going to have fluoride anymore. That is just not true. That is just not true, because they're getting enough fluoride in their toothpaste to satisfy everyone. Because the people that are saying, well, you keep it in the water, they're not going to turn around to you and say, well, don't use fluoride in your toothpaste. They're not going to say, please use fluoride-free toothpaste. They're not going to tell you that. They're going to say, oh, you need fluoride. You need fluoride. You need fluoride. I'm sorry, you don't need fluoride. You can add fluoride if you want fluoride. So that's right. That's where I stand on it. So do we want to have a motion to do this? That's fine.
Make a motion.
No, we need a motion to keep fluoride in the water or eliminate the fluoride in the water.
I make a motion to eliminate fluoride in the water.
Do I have a second for?
I'll second it for the vote. Let's just have the vote.
Okay. All in favor?
We have to do a roll call, I think.
You want to do a roll call?
I would suggest it.
Absolutely, fine, do a roll call.
Commissioner-
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Margaret,
No.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
No.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Your motion was to remove it?
To remove it.
No.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney.
Yes. Okay.
you.
Motion failed.
We have it. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
We're honored, Del Rey, that we get the Surgeon General of the state of Florida here. And I hope you at least enjoy some of the amenities while you're here. We have great restaurants, we've got great people, we got great weather, I think, today. And I really do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for inviting me.
No, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, just a point of order. Because the motion failed, our charter requires that motions be made in the affirmative.
I know.
So I think that, just for purposes of the record, I think we should have something in the affirmative, right? Or
So-
the
Motion to include fluoridation program in the
I was
water?
just going to say, I just want to confirm, so the policy direction is to continue with fluoridation of the water.
The policy, the result of that vote is to continue the fluoridation in the water as per
As
whatever.
currently it's done. Thank you.
Okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Good ad. We have item 7B. Would you like to read the resolution? Or would you please read the resolution? I know you don't want to read it.
Resolution 0925, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Delray Beach, Florida, affirming its appeal of the Planning and Zoning Board's similarity of use determination, finding that the operation of a gunite yard is consistent with the manufacturing and wholesale of final products using ceramics and plaster material within the mixed industrial and commercial MIC district, as more particularly described herein, providing for an effective date and further purposes, and this is a quasi-judicial appeal.
Thank you very much. Any ex parte communications?
Yes, I spoke to the representative for the applicant.
Yes, I spoke to Mr. Schiller.
I'm
Aye.
not sure about the survey.
Yes, I spoke with Mr. Schiller as well.
I spoke to Mr. Schiller.
I speak to Mr. Schiller a lot. I'm not sure if we talked about this or not, but I'll mention it just in case.
I'd like to, if there's anybody that's going to be speaking on this matter, if you could please stand and be sworn. At or on, whatever.
By the authority vested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. If you could please enter the project into the record.
Yes, good evening, Amy Alvarez, Development Services. The file number for this item is 2024-232.
Okay, and just for the record, since I asked for the disclosure first, after the file has been entered into the record, we're all confirming that we had communications with, yes, I'm just having us ratify our early statements. That's fine. Mr. Schiller.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and I will just say no fluoride in this water. It's bottled. Well, anyway, I'm not here on the water, but I am here on something just as important and a determination of similarity of use for my client Calabash Gunite. First off, before I get started, I just really want to thank staff for their assistance, their help, and their guidance through this process. It hasn't been an easy one, and we've not necessarily seen eye to eye, but we've both been respectful and we've worked well together, so thank you. We're asking you tonight to uphold the Planning and Zoning Board's 4-to-1 approval of a determination that my client's Gunite business is similar to wholesaling, storage, and distributions of ceramics and plaster. The staff report, we believe, was focused on manufacturing and not wholesaling. This would permit my client to continue to operate a Gunite wholesaling, storage, and distribution business in the MIC zoning district, and would allow us to actually file the necessary site plan applications to make sure the use is legal. The proposed use is at 135 North Congress Avenue, outlined in red, and smack in the middle of your MIC zoning district. I looked at the other uses in the area, and you can see that these are primarily industrial uses. You have Palm Tran to the west. You have a concrete products manufacturing site super concrete, I believe, to the south, some other concrete products manufacturing, millwork, vehicle repair and storage. This is clearly an industrial area. I highlighted your zoning map, highlighted the parcel in the zoning map, which shows you where we are in the MIC zoning district, and then the Supermix Concrete Company, just a couple parcels to our south, and Sun Coast Stone, which has been designing and experiencing designing and manufacturing and installing custom decorative precast architectural products, which are mostly made out of concrete to the east. I looked at and understand that maybe some of the consternation here is allowing this use throughout the whole MIC zoning district. And I wanted to point out in the zoning map the other MIC districts or zones throughout the city. Primarily the bulk is right where our site is on Congress Avenue, but there are some other locations. Again, this is the Congress Avenue MIC conglomeration, and you can see I've highlighted in red the areas that are adjacent to residentially zoned property. And I do want to point out that in many of these areas, the property line to property line distance is about 150 feet. Now, there are some areas that there's right up against a residential use, like the Aura development right off of Atlantic Avenue. That special activity district is right next to MIC, but primarily there is some distance. In the other part of the city, the southeastern part of the city, you have some other pockets of MIC. There is no residential close to those areas of MIC. This is the current aerial of the site, bordered on Congress Avenue and Northwest 18th Avenue. And so I wanted to point out where this determination of similarity of use has come from. It comes directly from your code. Your code allows a determination of similarity of use in situations where the director finds that the requested use is not identical but has similar characteristics to allowable uses, or when the use is of a specific nature. Example, an automobile sales is listed as a specific use in another zone district. The use may be established within a specific zone district by the action of the Planning and Zoning Board. And so that's what we asked them to do, and that board found that our business, the Gunite storage, wholesaling, distribution, is similar to that allowed in the MIC zoning district. Next slide. I do want to have a small bit of discussion about wholesaling and manufacturing. I think it's obvious, but I just want to put in for the record, wholesaling is the act of selling goods or commodities by wholesale, and manufacturing is makes products or goods out of raw materials. And we are not manufacturing anything on our site. We are completely wholesaling. So, as a permitted use in the MIC zoning district, and I'm sorry to get technical, one of the principal uses is under I, and I'm so sorry, I'll read this to you because it's like very small. Industrial uses, the manufacturing, fabrication, and wholesale of items and other uses as described in section 4.4B1, 2, and 3. Well, I went to 4.420, B1, 2, and 3, and in that is number 3, wholesaling, storage, and distribution. Wholesaling, storage, and distribution of any products which may be manufactured, assembled, or fabricated on the premises, in addition to the following items may be wholesaled, stored, or distributed. Of those materials, ceramics and plaster is on the list of what can be wholesaled, stored, or distributed from the site. And we believe that plaster is the most similar to gunite, and I'll get into that now. Oops. The difference between ceramic and plaster, I highlighted and did some research on clay plaster, gypsum, lime plaster, cement plaster, heat-resistant plaster. And a lot of them have the same characteristics that cement plaster is a mixture of plaster, sand, cement, and sometimes gravel and water. Clay plaster, same. Gypsum plaster goes through a very big different manufacturing process. It is ground and pounded and goes through a number of different chemicals as does heat-resistant plaster. A lot of these similarities do come from the storage and use, and the storage is basically, they are stored in waterproof silos or hoppers, very similar to what we're doing on our site with the Gunite yard. So what is Gunite? I'm sure you all have seen it before if you've had swimming pools or you've had a chance to watch the Home Network on a Saturday afternoon. You've seen those pool remodeling shows. Gunite is the cement that comes out of the truck. It consists of sand, cement, and water sprayed at a high velocity from the gun of the truck at the job site. The Gunite materials of sand, cement, and water are kept separate in the truck, and they are mixed at the job site. We are not manufacturing anything at this site. All the manufacturing occurs in the truck at the job site. That's why there is a distinction between wholesaling and manufacturing. We're wholesaling the Gunite materials, and they're being manufactured at the job site. All right, wholesaling, storage, and distribution. The raw materials and sand are delivered to the site. The sand is loaded into the yard with a loader. The cement is loaded into a silo for distribution. The mixer truck enters, and I actually have a little aerial, drives into the sand station. The sand is loaded into the the sand compartment of the truck. They move to the cement silo where the cement is dumped into the cement portion of the truck, and the truck literally rolls out of the site. Here you can see the different aspects I just was pointing out. The truck comes in from North Congress Avenue, makes a right, goes into the site, picks up the sand at the sand loading station, pulls around to the cement loading station, and then exits on Northwest 18th Avenue. While this is our proposed site plan, this is what we hope to be able to do on the site and really make it look much nicer than it looks today with the appropriate landscaping, fencing, etc., and a paved parking lot, which I think we all would agree will look better than what the site looks like today. As far as the cement silo, it's portable, it's mobile, and yes, it's 37 feet long. Okay, this thing withstands hurricanes. It can come down with some notice, but it can come down, and it is movable. It is not a permanent structure. And again, this site, and as your staff will tell you, and as I'll point out, we have all of the EPA permits required to having a cement silo on our site. Not to get into the weeds on concrete products manufacturing, but concrete products manufacturing is substantial and is not just storage on a site. There is quarrying, crushing, grinding, mixing, blending, preheating, kiln firing, forming clinker, cooling, controlling emissions. None of these activities are happening on our site. We are not a concrete products manufacturer. We are just not. We may be using cement. We are not making concrete on our site. And I really want to get that point across. No pulverizing, no grinding on our site. If there were, you guys would be hearing about it. An overview on a Gunite mixer truck. This is a very specialized piece of equipment, very expensive piece of equipment. My client owns all of these trucks. They're maintained by my client, and my client is here, by the way, Thomas Reardon with Endless Spa Pools. He is one of the ultimate premier pool builders in South Florida. I do want to get to these environmental permits. We got these permits because this is our job to get these permits. I mean, if we were going to be in this business, and we've had years and years and years of experience in this business, we know we needed to get the necessary permits, and we got them. And we provided them to your staff. We provided them to code enforcement. We'll continue to maintain them. And if there are any more environmental regulations that we need to comply with, we will comply with them too. Lastly, the difference between cement and concrete, the environmental impact. I know we were just talking about water, but there is a substantial impact to the manufacturing of concrete. In fact, they believe that it accounts, the experts, believe that it accounts for almost 8% of the world's CO2 emissions, which is substantial. But again, just for reiteration, none of those emissions are coming from this site because we're not manufacturing concrete at this site. So in conclusion, please uphold the Planning and Zoning Board's determination that what we're doing at Gunite Yard is similar to the wholesaling distribution of and wholesaling distribution of ceramics and plaster as allowed in your code. And happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City staff.
Yes, Julian Godanic, our senior planner and our resident expert on this topic now, will be providing the presentation.
After many months of research, yeah. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Julian Godanic, senior planner. I'll just wait one moment for the presentation to load. So as you're aware, before you at this time is a request for an appeal relating to a determination of similarity of use regarding whether a gunite yard is similar to manufacturing and wholesale of products using ceramic and plaster material, specifically in the MIC district. Bit of background, we're here today because the director made the determination that a gunite yard is a concrete products manufacturing use. Concrete products manufacturing is not allowed in the MIC zoning district. The applicant submitted a similarity of use request. The Planning and Zoning Board approved that request. You've appealed it, as you obviously know, and now we're in this hearing today. If you agree with the applicant and make a determination that it is similar, a gunite yard would be permitted as a main permitted use in the entire MIC zoning district, not just the subject property we're discussing. Importantly, let's clarify what gunite is. Simply put, it is a building material that's primarily used in pool construction. It is a subcategory of concrete with many similar characteristics. The way that they're processed and batched is very similar. They're comprised of the same ingredients. They both contain cement, sand, aggregates, and water. Both of the materials, traditional dry mix concrete and gunite, are batched in similar ways. They're loaded onto trucks, taken off of a distribution site to be used in construction applications, and they require the same Florida Department of Environmental Protection air permit. I just want to draw your attention to the image to the right. That is U.S. Concrete Products, which is a large, if not the largest manufacturer of concrete products in the country, has a gunite product. They refer to gunite as a pneumatically applied concrete. Pneumatically applied means through a high pressure air hose, consistent with how the applicant described it, but they do classify gunite as a concrete product. What are the differences? There are a few. Concrete contains both large and small particles of aggregate, whereas gunite is primarily very, very small, fine particles. Otherwise, concrete is typically pre-mixed with water into its final form prior to the time of application, whereas, as the applicant stated, gunite is mixed into its final form during the act of application. Other than that, there really isn't a discernible difference between the two. Fortunately, we don't have to hypothesize about what a gunite yard looks like. We have examples. To the left is an image of a gunite yard in Delray Beach. To the right is an image of a dry mix concrete batching plant. In staff's opinion, the way they appear and operate, function is very, very similar. And in terms of the DEP classification, the applicant responsibly did obtain an air permit for their gunite yard. The Department of Environmental Protection refers to it as a concrete batching plant. It's very clear in that regard. What does the code consider concrete products manufacturing? Let's clarify that briefly. It is allowed by conditional use only in the industrial zoning district, and it's prohibited in MIC. It could include manufacturing of something like a CMU masonry block that's used in construction. It could also be a dry mix product. You could see that in Home Depot for individual purchase, or it could be in very large quantities wholesaled. And you also have ready mix, which is essentially a ready-to-use concrete product. Concrete products manufacturing includes storing and or mixing of raw materials on a site, loading and transporting it to its final use area. That's essentially the same as Gunite as the applicant's representation described. And again, important to emphasize, the industrial district is meant to accommodate the most intense uses in the city, and in that district, concrete products manufacturing is deemed too intense to be a main permitted use. It requires additional level of review and scrutiny through the conditional use process. In this case, a gunite yard and MIC would not be held to that same scrutiny if you do elect to approve this. Ceramics and plaster manufacturing or wholesale and distribution, as the applicant is requesting consideration for similarity, is more or less what this slide is showing in terms of what the code is anticipating. The US EPA defines ceramics as manufacturing with high heat using clay material, earthenware, stoneware, pottery, not particularly akin to what the applicant's use is. Plaster is finishing material that you would think of similar to stucco, things like that. Again, you can buy it in small quantities at Home Depot or in much larger quantities. In relation to the MIC district as a whole, it's important to understand the purpose of the district, which is to accommodate and encourage a mix of industrial and commercial uses in the same area. So it's industrial uses that are also compatible with commercial uses. And the MIC district serves as a very important transition between more intense districts and lesser intense districts, including single-family, very low-scale residential. This is an example of an area in our city where MIC is directly across the street from single-family residential. If this request were to be approved, you could theoretically have a gunite yard across the street from those residences. Likewise, MIC is located on very prominent commercial corridors, Congress Avenue in the case of this applicant's request, as well as Linton Boulevard. Again, you could have this very intense industrial use located on prominent commercial corridors. It's important to clarify as well that the code requires that all industrial uses occur inside a fully enclosed building. That would also include manufacturing and wholesale and distribution of ceramics and plaster. The table to the right has the specific list of uses that are permitted outdoors. Outdoor storage is not one of them unless it's specifically allowed in a zoning district. It is not permitted in the MIC district as a main permitted use. So what that means is that wholesaling and manufacturing of ceramics and plaster must occur inside a building. A gunite yard clearly operates outdoors. It does not occur inside a building. This is an example of another gunite yard in West Palm Beach to show that typically they do require operations outdoors. It would be very difficult for a gunite yard to operate as is required inside a building, which is not consistent with what the code would expect of manufacturing and wholesaling of ceramics and plaster. Briefly on the subject property, it is zoned MIC. As we've clarified, it's on Congress Avenue. This is the aerial view of the property. The surrounding uses include a mix of retail and office uses. There's a few contractors' offices. Some are more recent. Some have been there for many years. There is a concrete batching plant to the south of the subject property, which is non-conforming. If it didn't exist, it could not go there today. It would not be permitted by code. And then directly adjacent to the north, there is a new Galaxy Marble location, which is kind of reminiscent of the types of pseudo-commercial industrial uses that the MIC district is, appropriate for. Modifications have been made to the site over the years without any level of review or approval on the site, and the property is under code enforcement action for those reasons, which is one of the sort of catalysts for why this application came forward. Just the aerial showing the change over time. And then this gives a bit more context of what a gunite yard actually looks like operationally. Large trucks moving material back and forth, et cetera. The required findings quickly to determine if the requested use is indeed similar to other uses allowed in the zoning district and if it's in keeping with the stated purpose of the district. Final considerations. Consider if a use that has the same potential negative environmental impact as a concrete manufacturing use would is appropriate in MIC. Again, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection requires the same air permit for both uses. That is one of the reasons why it's a conditional use in industrial. Is that appropriate in the lesser intense MIC district? Lastly, to sort of emphasize the point about wholesaling versus manufacturing, it's important to note that the code is very clear that in the MIC district, wholesaling and distribution of final products, not raw materials, but final products that may be manufactured or assembled in the district is permitted. The applicant is quite clear that they do not manufacture a product. They deal with raw materials. Distribution of raw materials is not permitted in the MIC district. And I'll leave it there. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Any members of the public who wish to get up and speak on this matter, please come up to the lectern, give your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes. Seeing no members of the public, we go, is there any cross-examination and rebuttal between?
No, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, to the commission. Mr. Markert.
Yeah, having gone through this over the past couple of days, I tend to agree with planning and zoning that a conditional use could be warranted here, and that would be how I would vote.
Okay. Commissioner Burns.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Markert. I've gone through this, I've read the backup, and I did my own research, and it's clear that a Gunite yard is a storage and distribution site and not a manufacturing site. And I'm hoping that we can work with this business to get them in a place where they can operate properly.
Okay. Commissioner Casal.
Yes, question. Was the planning and zoning recommending conditional use or full approval? I thought,
Yeah, please. Yeah.
thank you.
So the Planning and Zoning Board's purview was whether or not it was a similar use.
Right.
Thank you. I think and I don't want to speak for Commissioner Marker, I think he means development services, potentially.
Yeah, I did, sorry.
Okay. So,
Thank you. I was confused. I watched the planning and zoning meeting, and I was kind of disappointed because some of the members were questioning definitions, and it became confusing. And so I don't want to make any determination on that recommendation. While we generally will consider the recommendation of the lower board, in that instance, it was a little confusing. But I'm also spoke to the city attorney and the applicant's representative, and I would be also amenable to the conditional use. And I thank you for pointing out that approval of this would affect the abutting property. We don't want to do that. And in giving a conditional use, we won't have any future ramifications with abutting property, but we can still accommodate the applicant.
Mayor, can I just make a point?
Please do.
So just so we understand, we can go forward with a conditional use, but that's going to require a text amendment. So we would have to bring that back for the commission. You would have to consider that ordinance. And then at that point, if the commission approves a conditional use, then the applicant would have to submit that application. So it's not in the code currently. So that would take a few additional steps.
Understood.
Mayor, may I ask a question? Isn't there another alternative, or is that is the only alternative?
Yeah, we know it needs a text amendment because the determination.
No, I'm just wondering if there's another way we can get to this.
I just want to point out, I mean, everyone keeps saying all this stuff. I'm sorry, you have to go. But I'm just saying, if you do AI, if you go on Google, is Gunite thing, the first line is, yes, Gunite is a type of concrete, but it's applied differently. So, anyway, go ahead. I'm saying, go ahead.
I would like to hear what options we have if we're inclined to support the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation. Is conditional use the only avenue to do that at this point with the text amendment?
Well, if you're inclined to support what the Planning and Zoning Board did, then it would become a similarity of use. And like staff indicated, everywhere in the city where we have MIC, you could conceptually allow this Gunite. So that's always a concern to staff because it has a lot of broad implications. It would not just be for this application. The conditional use, if we do a text amendment, yes, it's going to take a little bit longer, but it would allow the commission to have the ability to mitigate the impacts, review the impacts, and look at everything on a case-by-case basis. Candidly, and I've spoken with Mr. Schiller, it's not, his client is under a code violation right now. Everything has been stayed pending the commission's review of this matter. I think we'd be inclined, if the commission's inclined to allow a conditional use process, to allow him to continue with whatever operation they're conducting right now, understanding that he will eventually come into compliance. And so he's taking the active steps to get to that point. So I think the conditional use is just a better result when you look at this request citywide. And it's not just what, it would not just impact Mr. Schiller, it would just have a greater, broader impact. And I don't, the Planning and Zoning Board, I think they reviewed what they received, and maybe they didn't understand the broad-reaching effects of a similarity of use.
Got it. Okay. Then I'm inclined to support going through the conditional use process here with the caveat that we allow this business owner to continue operating, since they are doing their due diligence to go through the process. That's all I got.
Everybody, right? You have, okay. Respectfully, Gunite is a concrete. It's defined as such by the EPA. Every definition, well, the larger the definition, because you're saying you're putting it on site and mixing it in your truck, as opposed to mixing it on the truck at the site and having it go out. The difference between gunite is a very smaller particle than concrete, but it is concrete. I also point out that if this similarity of use is permitted, what happens to the concrete yard right south of it? Because frankly, gunite's a concrete. Same EPA license. Does that make now that a conforming use?
Yes, if it's
So suddenly now that concrete, though they wouldn't be allowed, so that concrete place now is a conforming use.
yeah, there is that potential. Yeah, we
Right? So now in any MIC now, because gunite is a concrete, I mean, and I know we do nuances here, but gunite is a concrete. There's no way, shape, or that's the license you get from the EPA because it's a concrete, just a different form, and you're just, because you're delivering it on site as opposed to delivering on at the plant, so to speak, doesn't make it any less of a concrete. It's just a different granular thing. And I invite any one of you to go online and look up, is there a difference between gunite and concrete? And that's the sole difference. That's the sole difference, the size of the particle. So I just caution everybody, I'm not going to support this, because now we are inviting concrete to be allowed in all these MIC districts. As long as everybody understands that and they don't mind a concrete plant in these things, that's what you're doing. I'm saying this as a lawyer. What I would fight if I'm on when I was on that side of the dais, that's what I'm going to fight. You allowed a concrete thing here, because then I'll be arguing, hey, gunite's a concrete. I wouldn't be saying gunite's not a concrete.
Mayor,
and I'm going to get my concrete.
You a question? So, right. So I think what I was thinking is we would be denying this similarity of use and making a separate request for conditional use. Are you amenable to that? Because that resolves the issue.
Then that will definitely be a text amendment. We'd have to add to the conditional uses. And then if there were different, I'm happy to consider on a case-by-case basis, which wouldn't apply throughout the districts.
Right.
Yes.
We all agree. I think that's the consensus.
That was the
We're all on the same
consensus.
page.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that that's what we're talking about, because
That's what we're talking
my concern is that now concrete plants under this would be allowed to operate in the MIC, which I really don't want.
Right.
If we cut on a case-by-case basis, where we could look at how close it is to a residential, how close it is to this, how close it is to that,
Yes,
I could live with that.
100%.
Then I need a motion to deny.
Okay. Motion to
No,
deny
you have to
resolution.
no, we have to motion to approve. We can't.
You
A
can do a
deny.
motion to
To
deny
deny.
resolution 0925.
Okay,
Right.
let's do it.
Resolution, excuse me, motion to deny resolution number 09-25.
Second.
Thank you.
And roll call vote, please.
Deputy Vice Mayor Long,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cassell,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Commissioner Marker.
Yes.
Motion
Now, we would like to direct staff, with the consensus of the commission, we'd like to direct staff to start developing a text amendment that can be reviewed by the commission, which would incorporate all our concerns, and including whether or not the compatibility with the next door properties and all this other kind of stuff, to create a conditional use for this type of operation in the MIC.
Okay, so just for clarification, this would then become a city-initiated LDR amendment, not privately initiated by the
These
applicant.
clients got the money. Oh, yes, city initiative.
And
I'm only kidding. I used to be on his side. So, yes, this would be a city-initiated thing, which would probably speed up the process for the applicant.
Thank you.
Well, should speed up the applicant. Are we agreed this is going to be a city-initiated?
Could I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. And then do you need direction with respect to code enforcement? Or are we good with
Well, that's
that?
going to be state anyway. That would be state as a result
Right,
of what
I
we
didn't
just
know
It's not
she
really
needed
within the
us
purview,
Yeah.
so I think.
Yeah,
we
we're
would
going to say
Okay.
that.
Got it. Thank you. I think we're done.
Great.
Right.
Everybody happy?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nominations for appointment to the Site Plan Review and Appearance Board. You, Commissioner Thomas Marker.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Cynthia Lloyd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Cynthia. I saw you earlier. I don't know where you were.
She's hiding.
Okay. 7D, City Attorney Merit Increase. Jeez, this one's tough.
We're gonna listen to that guy that came.
You know, listen, I was nearly, no, I should have shut him down. I should have shut him down because he was so fast in crossing the border, crossing the line.
We spread it out here pretty quick after.
No, I did because, you know, so. Okay, Dwayne, you're up.
Thank you. Dot Bass, Human Resources, good evening. This item is in front of you to allow you the opportunity to provide and discuss a merit increase for City Attorney Lynn Jellin. Each of you completed her performance evaluation. She has been provided those copies. The aggregate score was 4.72 out of a possible 5 points. So it's open for discussion.
Before we get into the merit increase, I would like to have a study. We are going to need different evaluation forms. As an attorney, okay, under the net rationale that this form would have, if I disagreed with her opinion, I would be voting bad, even though she could be giving perfect service. So we need a different type of evaluation form. By the way, both for the city manager and for the city. I found the same problem with the city manager's thing because it's written in such a way as to, you know, if they respond to all the constituent letters, they get a 5. Well, that's not indicative of anything to me. So I really want to focus, and that would be your department to figure out how to improve that evaluation form for both the city manager and the city attorney.
Will do.
So that was my only concern.
Okay.
So do we agree up here? I mean, does anyone have the same problems as I did? Because as an attorney trying to review another attorney, we could both find each other totally wrong, but still be totally right, is my point. So I really want to have a different kind of evaluation form, which allows us more input into the process. Because I find myself scratching stuff off because I don't know her correspondence with constituents.
Understood.
I don't know her correspondence with, because I don't know that. But yet that's part of something I have to judge. And I don't think that is within our purview to kind of judge her interaction with anyone. All that matters to me is her interaction with us. So that's all my point. So I would like us to consider, you know, if you could come back with something. I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I leave the floor to whoever wants it. So now what do we do?
Give her a raise.
Well, no. So I mean, have
we
we?
make a motion or?
Well, we need a motion.
Wait a second. What is the number, Dot, if I may?
Her average was 4.72% out of a possible 5. Personnel policies and procedures in general equate the score with the merit increase, but you're not held to that considering that you are the commission and she is your staff member.
That'd be a 4.72% merit increase then in this case?
Right.
Right.
I would move for a 5% increase.
Second.
I think it's fair and reasonable. We offer it in the city across the board. So I think.
I think with our current budget, 5 is high myself, and with no reflection on Lynn. I just think we're trying to scale back some of these expenditures. I would have gone with a 4.
Ah, that's low.
No.
Considering her score?
Because the scoring is not. My point is the whole scoring thing is skewed.
Okay, you needed to give her a way lower score if you actually wanted to give her a 4.
No, because I'm not going to say she's doing lousy work.
She's doing an amazing job, and that's why I'm supporting a 5.
It's the methodology of scoring, and
Right.
it's rigged so that it's a high score.
I understand.
I'm telling you that
It's a.
I'm not. I've let other people look at it.
If I may, the thing is that across the board in the city, we typically 5 is kind of the number people get, and we all gave her amazing reviews. Everything was above, meets and exceeds expectations. You can't give her a score like that and then not compensate her at the same level you compensate others in the city, even though you're not in charge of the compensation.
I'm just saying that the whole grading system in both the city manager and the city attorney's things is skewed towards, by the nature of the way they frame the question, a higher result.
I would give her a 6 or 7 if we weren't in a budget crisis, to be honest with you. So
I rated
in
Ms.
the
Jelen
past-
straight
We
5.
got a
so-
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Is that
Aye.
for 5?
Yes, that's your motion and a second.
Okay, thank you.
Got a motion and a
Aye.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. I'm an aye, by the way. Got to get a new form. We have no public hearings, thankfully. We have no first readings, thankfully, and we're going straight to comments, inquiries to the city manager.
Mayor, I yield at this time. Thank you.
Oh, geez, this is good. You should have done this a half an hour ago. We could have made the party. To the city attorney.
I have 2 shade meetings that I need to just put on the record. I emailed everybody, and I think everybody was all set with February 25th. So the first one is I'm requesting a shade meeting pursuant to Florida Statute 286.011 in the matter of Chad and May Shoemaker versus City of Delray Beach, case number 50-2023, CA 000910. I am seeking 30 minutes to discuss a settlement proposal in this matter. In attendance would be Mayor Carney, Vice Mayor Cassell, Deputy Vice Mayor Long, Commissioner Marker, Commissioner Burns, outside counsel Alicia Gonzalez, myself, and a certified court reporter. The shade meeting would be February 25th at 3 p.m.
I'll be there as well.
Oh, and City Manager Sharon Sore. We know that.
Okay,
So I need a motion.
all right. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Please calendar the dates.
And the next one is Nellie King, the law office of Nellie King versus City of Delray Beach, case number 2019 CA 011150, MMB. I'm also requesting a shade meeting in this matter to discuss litigation strategy. In attendance would be Mayor Carney, Vice Mayor Cassell, Deputy Vice Mayor Long, Commissioner Marker, Commissioner Burns, City Manager Terrence Moore, outside counsel Samuel Zeskind, myself, and a certified court reporter. We would meet on February 25th at 3:30 for approximately 30 minutes.
Okay, need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please calendar it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Casal, you get to go first.
Thank you. Chief Martin, I was going to say, again, this is the second meeting in a row where we've come here with a new report from your department, and I enjoyed it. The first quarter report, especially page 4, and I think the gentleman to your left will appreciate that as well, where you said zero-based budgeting, that you're going to start doing that, and I thank you so much. I don't think you need to do it annually because you're such a big department, but I'm beyond excited that you're doing that. We talked about that for a long time, and I thank you for that. Noticed our expenses, operational expenses and others are down, and thank you for that as well. I want our new code enforcement director to be successful. It's critically important for the whole city. I think the mayor said it best one day. That's the first face that a lot of people see in the city. I also want the employees there to be happy and productive. And when I read that report, Mr. Moore, it just seemed like another SWAT report that which we already had the city do. And I hope that you, because the gentleman indicated he really, I don't know that he got the guidance to understand what we wanted, but I hope that you can take some of those suggestions and put them into the report so that we can make that department functional for our new director to be successful.
That is absolutely the guidance and approach and the basis for a 2-tier presentation. Today, the update, followed by the final outcome to be presented during your first meeting in March. So I think we're all on the same accord.
Thank you. And then, we don't really have to discuss this, but I think I want to bring it to everybody's attention. That same gentleman has appeared twice about pop stroke. And, you know, I have been over in that area, and I can't imagine living there next to it and hearing the pounding all day long. So I don't know what we can do, but if you can, we can try to do something, even if we can reach out to the business and just ask them. Oh, okay.
Can I update you on one?
Yeah, I was going to say, you and I have had, yes, go ahead, please, you give the answer that I would give.
We will ask code to go out, and he's already been cited once. Mayor Carney was there to witness it, and, you know, at this point, it could be, you know, an enhanced fine because it's repetitive. So I'll speak with our new code enforcement supervisor and appraiser.
We had them out there a few weeks ago. I mean, I live in that same neighborhood. I hear it when I'm walking back from the, I mean, we all hear it.
Right.
And they turn it down for a while when they get a complaint, and then it seems to
Slowly
migrate
goes
up. I think
back
it's a design issue. They need to put the speakers on the ground as opposed to up.
Oh, good idea.
That
Yeah.
has been suggested, so
Okay.
I'm trying to help there as best I can, because these are my neighbors.
Yes, thank you.
So.
And I would like to help them as well, because it's unfortunate to have the same people coming in with the same complaint. To our chief of police, I want to commend you. I know that we heard that complaint earlier, but really I want to say that you were on top of things and you initiated that internal investigation quickly, and I want to say thank you for that. Last but not least, okay, Mr. Moore, how much money are we getting for the truck from our insurance company?
The most recent estimate was finalized. We are still back and forth with the insurance company. They came up with a value of $236,000 minus our deductible would bring that number to $136 and change. The February 18th presentation will likewise feature options as to how we deal with the replacement consideration and what approaches to take. So we are in the midst of evaluating opportunities to get to that place. However, we are also in dialogue with the insurance company to further evaluate the metrics to be certain that that is accurate. Right. The damaged vehicle is a 2009 full fire apparatus ladder truck, about 100 feet long, and much of this would be based on the marketplace. However, we still continue to deal with the insurance company to determine what that outcome is. Part of our presentation in 2 weeks will feature an update specifically.
$136,000 is what we're getting in coverage, and the replacement would be $2.3 million, and if we got a smaller truck, a different truck, would be $1.365. I don't know where you plan on getting the money, but I hope you're not going to look for it from the reserves. I will not be amenable to that. I'm trying to understand how our asset is so underinsured. Maybe you don't get full replacement value, but that is 6% of the replacement value of the vehicle. And, I don't know how we're so grossly underinsured. And I have a feeling, I'm speculating, it's because, as someone very intelligent said, we are a financial house of cards. We're leasing vehicles. Now, we all got the email, Mayor. I was asking about that rollover money all the way back when Mr. Dunkley was here. And thank you to our finance director for answering the questions. But if you all read that email that was sent to us, I'm very concerned. $830,500 was not rolled over, was not placed in our budget to make our reserves appear as though they were at 21% because we were out borrowing money. He doesn't need to get up. I was just referring to his email. Everybody got it. Because we were out borrowing money. So we are taking money from now we need to take another $850,000 from our reserves, from our rainy day fund that was not rolled over so that we could look like our situation was different because we were borrowing money. So that concerns me, and I know that in the future the finance department is going to be coming in front of us and looking for another $850,000. I know the calculation is that our reserves are at like 23% now. But in light of the fact that we probably need to come up with $2 million for a new fire truck, okay, 1.1 or 2 for a new fire truck. Well, if we're replacing it, we're going to need to find the difference between the 136,000 and the 1.3 million. So you don't have to answer now, but I am not going to go into the reserves to buy a new fire truck. And I want to make that really clear to everybody right here. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Long.
Yeah. I was going to reference the pop stroke thing. I also wanted to thank our police department for the raid on the Bi-Lobe store. Really great work. I know there was a lot of work that went into that entire investigation. So thank you guys. Thank you, Chief. And thanks to all the folks who were involved there. I wanted to ask just briefly about what the gentleman brought up who was referencing the Swinton improvements from Unity, who referenced potentially adding like a stacking lane there. I just wanted to bring it up just to see if that is possible, or just kind of what that looks like. I don't need an answer tonight, but maybe Missy next time.
You need Missy.
Yeah, I just want to hear from Missy if kind of what they're looking at in terms of that, because I'm sure she's looked at it. I just wanted to reference that because I think it's a good concern to address earlier than later. That's all I got. I just wanted to address the comments from the folks here, so I don't have anything else.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes, I have a couple of things. I wanted to commend the police department and Chief Major. We had a conversation, but again, publicly for the work that you are doing citywide, and also specifically to the Bi-Lobe situation. You and your staff ought to be commended for that. And I met with our finance director and got a very comprehensive breakdown of his plans and how we're going to break this process down of this budget review, and I am looking forward to it simplifying things. So I appreciate the time you spent with me the other day. I also have, I've been very concerned about some things with this body. So I wrote, and I just want to read it. And before I read it, because then I'll end with that. I got an email, or we got an email from Winnie over at the Delray Historical Society, and she has this presentation coming up, Segregated Shorelines, and she's looking for staff and the commission and people to attend. So I told her that I would mention it tonight during my comments. So there is a presentation, The Civil Rights Movement in Delray Beach, on the 6th at 6 p.m., which is Thursday. Evening at the field house, and she said that she can have tickets for staff and for the commission. So if you are available, please attend this. I have another meeting, but I'm going to come over once my meeting is done. However, the item that I wanted to read is something I want to address, some concerns regarding the general behavior of this body and whether we're truly upholding the expectations outlined in our charter and code of conduct. As public servants, we have an obligation to lead with integrity, dignity, and respect. Values, I feel, are not always reflected in our actions. We are given a clear code of conduct to guide us in carrying out our duties, yet there have been instances where I feel this code has been disregarded. For example, some commissioners have made public statements to the press regarding sensitive matters, even though it is understood that such statements should come from our communications department. This kind of approach undermines the consistent messaging that serves our community and can lead to unnecessary confusion or division. There have also been instances where commissioners have bypassed the city manager's office and gone directly to department heads. This behavior is not only a breach of protocol, but also undermines the structure and efficiency of our city's governance. Similarly, publicly criticizing or shaming staff and the city manager is not only inappropriate, but damaging to morale and the trust our staff has in this commission to lead responsibly. Our fiduciary responsibility is first and foremost to the city and its taxpayers. It is our duty to maintain professionalism, foster trust, and work collaboratively to address the needs of our community. Grandstanding and sensationalism or focusing on matters outside of our purview, especially those better handled administratively, only distracts from our shared mission. I won't say this part about the not needing to be in the paper, but for me, the most important thing is the welfare of our city and the efficiency of our government, not personal accolades or public recognition. I urge each of us to recommit ourselves to the principles of our charter and the code of conduct. Let's ensure that our actions demonstrate honesty, respect, and a deep understanding of the privilege and responsibility of this role. As leaders, we are accountable not only to our residents, but also to the employees who work tirelessly to make our city function. Let's work together to create a culture of respect and cooperation so that we can serve our community with integrity that it deserves. Thank you. End of my comments.
End of your comments. Okay.
Mayor, could I just say one thing? I wanted to point out that the discussion about the finances was prior to our CFO coming.
I understand that.
Oh, I know, but I wanted the public to.
Okay.
And if you want me to answer, I speak to the press.
You know, yeah, I'm
okay,
talking.
sorry.
I didn't go yet.
Oh, yes. Oh, jeez.
Nice try.
And it's hard to miss you there at 6'12".
Nice try. I'll be very quick. I want to do a couple shout outs. Chief Martin, I want to say thank you very much for the new reports that you're sending out. It's transparent. It's sitting up here. They're concise. They're clear. You're really providing great information. So I'm eternally thankful for that. We hadn't been getting that with the previous regime, and it's good for us to get that. Chief Major, I want to say thank you very much for the alerts that you send out to us on major incidents in the city, so that we have a heads up, before the general population. That's very helpful to us. And I also want to say thank you for the work that you did at Bilo. That was troubling a lot of our citizens. A lot of noise had been coming in on that, and people were really thankful for what you and the department did there. So shout out on that. And then lastly, Mr. Moore, a big thank you for today. I was approached by the leadership of American Heritage School, and they've got 24 seniors that are in a business program. And they asked us if we could do a day in the city so they could get around to all the departments and have a look around. And Janai and Terrence and I talked to them this afternoon for about 30 minutes, and they're so happy and they're so grateful. And as I said to the principal, I grew up in Syracuse. We didn't have anybody doing this for us, up in Syracuse. This is great, and it's going to show our city in a really good light, and it's really going to help some kids that are in business programs at American Heritage. So I appreciate you helping me with that. And that's it for me, sir.
Great. Thank you for your statement. I actually have my little statement on respect that I was going to be using when we had our Robert's Rules of Order, but you went into a lot of more detail. I really just talked about stressing that citizens deserve both transparency and answers, and that we treat each other with respect and everything. So I'm going to wait for this very well written, not as well as yours, this very well written little spiel that I'm going to do. This is what I do with waiting. I write stuff and I wait for the moment. But anyway, but I do think, huh?
It was a tough act to follow.
I can't. That's why I'm not going to read it. I'm embarrassed. But but she's an educator. I'm a lawyer, so we're verbose. But she's very to the point. Mine would be like 26 pages long. With respect to, Missy's not here, so I wanted to bring up something about the traffic signals that we are working on, because lots of meetings have been held with FDOT and about getting these things in, including City of Delray taking over some of these things. But, this is going to be our decision. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but they've apparently been having some wonderful conversations, which we're all going to love, but I don't know what the details are. I just know that it's coming. I did want to also thank, as Commissioner Casal did, I understand that the investigation is nearing its completion, as you guys have been working very hard on there in the internal investigation, and it's never an easy job, but I want to thank you very much apparently for the diligence that has been done in getting that, because I know we're all going to be interested in that. I don't know how many of you looked at the agenda that's proposed for the 11th, but there were 3 items on the agenda, and the last one had to do with education. Did you, any of you, I don't know if any, there were 2, okay, so you didn't see it, because I have asked if the city manager, because originally the city manager had proposed to have a thing on education, and I wrote a letter stating that I really didn't want to have the education conversation because this commission really needs to understand the education elements which are contained in 2 portions of the comp plan before because we have to decide what we want. And there's going to be additions, there's going to be deletions, there's going to be something like that. And because I think that is really an extremely important aspect, because it is going to create and establish what our interlocal agreement is going to be with the county, I wanted to really have a dedicated meeting, because it's going to take an hour and a half. And that same night, we're going to be doing the historic stuff. And I just feel that historic stuff is going to take up a lot more time, and it will really leave the education portion to be off to the side. And I really think it really deserves our full attention. And so I'm asking that I know you've taken off the agenda, but what I'm really looking for is where we can all understand the comp plan, understanding where we are in the comp plan, and what changes we want to make to the comp plan.
If I may, Mr. Mayor and ladies and gentlemen, the workshop meeting was set administratively by the Office of the City Manager to focus on the 2 outcomes as it relates to historical matters for the reasons we stated, 3 to 5, and other matters we take care of, the VIP event and so forth. So because of the dynamics of the education piece, the comprehensive plan and so forth, there is merit to have that be distinct in that regard. So when Mr. Carney and I spoke about this earlier today, I talked to him, as I will you all at this time since it's being brought up, the prospect of a workshop meeting to take place Thursday, March 27th for this purpose. I specifically suggested that day because that is your organizational meeting for the coming year. That can take place at about 6 o'clock, should not take terribly long. Therefore, the suggestion that a workshop meeting specifically for this purpose to take place, say, beginning at 4 o'clock to conclude 5:30, no later than 6 o'clock or so, we feel that we can get this accomplished to coincide with the annual organizational meeting at that date. So that would be my recommendation. So with the consensus to proceed to that effect, I think we'll be prepared quite well to engage as outlined, and it is prudent that we proceed as I've suggested.
Is that everybody?
Could I ask a question,
Sure.
please? Our ed board is not meeting right now, though.
That's correct.
And the only concern I have is we keep putting this off. I agree with you. I don't necessarily want it on the same night. I think that would be a lot. I think both of those issues need a sufficient amount of time, but I would suggest we look to sooner rather than later. We don't have an ed board meeting at all.
This was the meeting because I didn't want to have to call to request another meeting, and this kind of fit into the schedule because we really don't we've all seen bits and pieces in the presentations about what the comp plan says in the different elements of the portions of the education element, but none of us have ever really seen everything in front of us with an explanation of what options we do and we don't have in each one of these education elements, which is why I wanted the time. I'm happy to do it earlier if you could find the time, but it would be this was a free night, and we were going into a meeting on this Thursday night, the organizational meeting, which will take no time at all. And so I figured that was the best use of the time, rather than add on time and then do a full meeting afterwards. That was my only thought with that date.
And ladies and gentlemen, just to assist, your schedule for the month of February, you have the 11th, you have the 18th, you also have the 25th, you have your CRA meeting. You have a regular meeting March 11th to also include a joint meeting with the CRA concerning the disparity study. I just introduced the proposed budget schedule for fiscal year 2025-2026 considerations being scheduled for the 18th. And of course, the week after that and 2 days later would be the aforementioned organizational meeting, Thursday, March 27th. So you do have a robust series of activities in that regard. Given that the 27th should be short in terms of the organizational meeting, it makes sense in that regard. And I'm quite frankly being mindful of everybody's schedule and time. As far as preparation for this type of engagement or consideration, that would actually be helpful in that regard, so therefore that would work. So you have a slew of meetings lined up between now and really the end of March. The only bye week, if you will, would be the week of March 3rd, and again, doesn't make much of a difference given the level of activity for which we'll all be engaged. Therefore, March 27th, I thought made sense in that regard. It will also provide an opportunity for the Office of the City Manager and others involved to adequately prepare relative to comprehensive plan considerations, etc. So not much of a difference at all. We do support the sense of urgency respectively. Nevertheless, the historical components to be experienced a week from today, Tuesday, February 11th, requires this attention as well. So formally, that would be my recommendation if I may be at liberty to offer it. We'll all have time to prepare and we can adequately execute the path forward relative to the other subjects, topics, and considerations.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay?
I don't think we
Okay,
have a choice.
fine.
So that will take place Thursday, March 27, 2025, 4 o'clock to conclude roughly at 6 o'clock. Your organizational meeting to take place at 6 o'clock, which should not take up an additional amount of time.
Okay, we're in agreement. I've been talking about zero-based budgeting since 2012 when I sat in this chair. So I'm very thrilled that that is now that we are entering into the age where we want to start looking at zero-based budgeting. I know it scares a lot of people, but the last time I did one in our business, we did zero-based budget. We ended up having to hire somebody else. So it truly is. You just because it's zero-based budgeting people shouldn't be afraid of that. I think it's a really good approach. I think it's long overdue, so I'm thrilled that we are undertaking that. I do have a question. We have ordered a new fire truck. When are we expecting that delivery? That was already in the works. Because and with respect to our 2009 truck, it was going to have to be replaced anyway. But I know. I'm just saying.
It's irrelevant when you're talking about why your coverage is only 6% of your replacement value. You have to ask yourself, do you have adequate coverage across the board?
I understand the point.
Based on the update I received today, we have 2 apparatus that we are anticipating and taking delivery in that's already been pre-ordered as part of our capital replacement cycle. We're expecting to take delivery of that apparatus sometimes in 2026. We should be at a point of pre-construction visits to the plant, and the end of 2025 is what we're currently anticipating.
Good. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And that's all. I mean, I understand your reserve. All money that's not specifically allocated is reserves. Even if you had a 50% reserve, just say you're not using reserves. You don't want to go below a certain level. Understood.
Correct. I don't want to go below a certain level.
Understood.
And I'd also like an answer as to why we are so underinsured, if in fact we are, because that's the residents' assets.
Well, you can't always. Well, that's going to be.
I just want him to.
Okay,
maybe it's perfectly appropriate insurance
that'll
coverage.
Be fine. Anyway, are there any other issues? What? We're adjourned.
It does. And if you have full replacement or not.